drop your weapon and step away from Sergeant Sullivan.
I called you. You specifically. Look, you know who I am. I'm not gonna shoot. I told you to meet me downstairs.
Help!
Martin Scorsese's The Departed stands as a modern masterpiece, boasting a powerhouse ensemble cast, a gripping narrative, and layers of complex themes. It's a film that rewards audiences with something new on every rewatch. The scene I want to focus on today, though, stands out as one of the most shocking in the entire film, precisely because it offers the audience a fleeting moment of hopeful satisfaction, only to snatch it away just as quickly.
This crazy fuck knocked Jimmy Bag's teeth out.
By the time this scene unfolds, our antagonist, Frank Costello, brilliantly portrayed by Jack Nicholson, is already dead. It seemingly looks as though the film is narrowing in on its final loose end, focusing the tension squarely on the confrontation between our two protagonists. That loose end is none other than Billy Costigan, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, arresting Colin Sullivan, played by Matt Damon, after uncovering that he was the embedded police rat working for Costello.
Imagine that, you rat fuck. Costello trusted me more than anyone.
The scene unfolds on the rooftop of a vacant building, spans just 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and involves 4 characters, 3 of whom meet their end. If you haven't seen The Departed, I'll do my best to summarize its intricate plot to provide some context to help you follow along.
We've been after this cocksucker for a long time, and tonight we are going to get him.
The movie is a high-stakes crime thriller centered on 2 men living double lives. Billy Costigan, an undercover cop embedded in mob boss Frank Costello's crew, is tasked with gathering intel on the elusive kingpin.
Smell a rat.
Meanwhile, Colin Sullivan, a sergeant in the Massachusetts State Police, operates as Costello's mole, feeding him critical inside information.
Hey, last time I checked, I tipped you off and you're not in jail.
Billy's dangerous mission is orchestrated by Captain Queenan and Sergeant Dignam, the only 2 who know his true identity, adding an immense pressure to his already perilous operation. As Costello grows increasingly paranoid about a rat in his ranks, Colin ironically rises within the police force and is tasked with finding the mole, the very mole that he is. Tensions erupt when Queenan is killed during a botched operation, deceptively manipulated by Colin. This leaves Billy isolated and vulnerable, with Dignam forced to step aside after Queenan's death.
2 weeks with pay. Good.
Colin soon discovers that Costello was an FBI informant all along and cunningly orchestrates a plan to kill him, emerging as a hero in the process. However, Billy uncovers Colin's double life as Costello's rat and demands a rooftop meeting at the very location where Queenan was killed, setting the stage for the explosive confrontation to come. What unfolds in this scene is the ultimate revelation of both characters' morals and identities, laid bare as their carefully constructed facades have crumbled. It's a clash that feels less like a battle of wits and more like a desperate conclusion to a game that has left both men utterly exhausted from pretending to be someone they're not. As I mentioned, the scene takes place at the very building where Captain Queenan was killed. The opening shot of the scene is particularly striking. It uses the exact same framing, blocking, and camera movement as Queenan's earlier meeting with Billy on the roof. I'm not sure if this is a subtle foreshadowing of Colin meeting the same fate as Queenan, or simply a practical choice in how the scenes were shot. Either way, it works as a clever visual nod to the idea that just as Queenan and Billy's rooftop meeting ended in disaster, so too will Billy and Colin's. We cut to a wide shot on the roof, establishing the space before dollying camera right to reveal Billy hiding behind the rooftop door as Colin steps into the space. The dolly move ends, and several beats later, Billy pounces at Colin from his hiding spot. This timing of the camera reaching its final position and Billy pouncing reinforces the sense that Billy is in complete control of the situation. It may seem like a small detail, but if Billy had pounced on Colin while the camera was still dollying right, it wouldn't evoke the same sense of structured control. The precise timing of the blocking underscores Billy's calculated dominance in this critical moment. We cut to another wide shot that dollies camera left as Billy forces Colin further across the roof. This deliberate camera movement visually reinforces Billy's control over the situation, leading both Colin and the viewer on his terms. The movement also builds momentum, heightening the tension as the confrontation rapidly escalates. This entire scene is a battle between Billy's righteous anger and Colin's manipulative desperation, with both actors delivering a masterclass in tension and restraint. From the outset, Colin arrives at this meeting hoping to do what he does best, lie and manipulate his way out of exposure. He attempts his first move, grasping for control, but Billy shuts him down immediately. After Colin is punched to the ground, his desperate plea begins. The coverage here is fairly straightforward as Billy slaps the handcuffs on him, but pay attention to the number of cuts. In the span of just 18 seconds, we get 8 cuts. Frantic, fast-paced editing is usually reserved for action sequences, but here it's being used to amplify Colin's desperation as he scrambles to reverse the truth, claiming that Frank was actually his informant, not the other way around.
I was a rat? Fuck you, prove it. He was working for me. He was my informant. Shut your fucking mouth.
Colin's lies and manipulation aren't working anymore, and the rapid cutting helps expose that his carefully constructed facade is falling apart. Billy cuffs Colin, yanks him up, and starts marching him towards the door, all while Colin desperately tries to talk his way out. His usual charm and deception are useless now, as Billy cuts him off at every turn.
Would you shut the fuck up?
We get 2 reverse close-ups after Colin tells Billy that he erased his file, proving he is a cop. These are the first and only close-ups in the scene, emphasizing the weight of Colin's revelation and its significance in the confrontation. The flow of the scene comes to an abrupt standstill with these 2 reverse shot close-ups. Billy is momentarily caught off guard, and for a brief moment, it seems as though Colin might have a sliver of hope in turning the situation in his favor. But Billy's righteous anger quickly overpowers Colin's manipulation. He isn't buying a single word, shutting down every desperate attempt.
Fuck you! Fuck you! I'm fucking arresting you!
Colin attempts manipulation one more time, telling Billy that arresting him is the stupidest thing he can do, and we get this.
Shut the fuck up!
Billy's righteous anger is on full display. He doesn't care whether Colin will actually be charged or not. All that matters to him is making the arrest. It seems over as Billy pulls Colin up and heads for the door, only for the tension to snap back in an instant. Police Deputy Brown suddenly steps onto the roof, gun drawn, demanding that Billy let Colin go. We cut to a wide profile shot, framing both men in direct opposition, guns drawn, mirroring each other in a tense standoff. The composition is strikingly confrontational, visually reinforcing the next obstacle for Billy. At the beginning of the film, we learn that Brown attended the police academy with Billy, establishing a history between them before Billy went undercover. He was also handpicked by Colin to be a part of his team tasked with finding the rat within the department. This dual connection adds a layer of tension to the standoff, as Brown is caught between 2 opposing forces, one he knows personally and one he serves professionally. There's a tense back and forth between Billy and Brown as Billy reveals that Colin is the rat.
He's Costello's rat! Alright?
What I find more compelling in this moment is that we're still witnessing Colin's psychological downfall unravel in real time. There are 4 distinct beats in this scene that reveal Colin's psychological and manipulative breakdown. First, we see Colin lie and manipulate. Second, we see him here try to inflict harm on Billy by begging Brown to shoot him, knowing full well that afterwards he would manipulate the situation to clear his name.
Shoot this motherfucker! Would you fucking shoot?
The 2 other instances are coming up. Billy diffuses the standoff and proceeds to take Colin down with him for arrest. Brown follows closely, still holding Billy at gunpoint. Whether he believes Billy or simply wants to avoid escalating the situation remains unclear. Billy steps into the elevator with Colin, and this is where we witness the final 2 beats of Colin's manipulative breakdown. First, he pretends he doesn't care. Perhaps a last-ditch attempt to manipulate Billy into rethinking the arrest.
I can't wait to see you explain this to a fucking Suffolk County jury.
It's a feigned indifference, masking the fear bubbling beneath the surface. Then, as Colin glances at the elevator floor indicator, the weight of his downfall fully sets in. What follows is his final moment of submission. With fear, shame, and desperation all wrapped into one, he quietly pleads.
Just fucking kill me. Just fucking kill me.
Matt Damon delivers this line with an unsettling rawness. A man who knows his carefully constructed world has finally collapsed. Framed in a mid-2 shot, it's all over. Colin stands with his back to Billy, utterly defeated. As the audience, we can't wait to see the character of Colin, a weak rat of a man, finally get what he deserves. The elevator opens and... just like that, audiences worldwide were left stunned. It happened so unexpectedly, so abruptly, that on my first viewing I was speechless. A protagonist we followed for over 2 hours, gone in an instant. No emotional farewell, no dramatic build-up, no closure. Just dead. The camera pans up to reveal Trooper Barrigan as the shooter. At first it seems like he's simply saving his colleague, but just as Brown comes around the corner, Barrigan executes him too. Then another gut punch. Barrigan casually tells Colin that he too was an informant for Costello.
Costello was going to sell us to the FBI.
Colin, who has spent the entire film believing he was Costello's chosen one, suddenly realizes he was just another expendable piece in a much larger game. And as if that wasn't all enough, seconds later, Colin executes Barrigan. The scene ends on a static wide shot, visually restoring the balance that had been momentarily lost. It's also worth noting here that the bagpipes from the following scene begin playing at the tail end of this scene, seamlessly carrying us into the next sequence. It's a subtle but poetic nod to Billy's earlier words.
You can get the parade, huh? The bagpipes and bullshit?
Now Billy is the one being mourned, while Colin walks free. It's an explosive scene that still stuns audiences to this day. What I've always loved about it, though, is how masterfully it leads us to believe that, at last, Colin has been caught and will face justice. We've just watched Colin unravel, his manipulations failing him for the first time. Billy, after enduring so much, is finally on the verge of freedom, justice seemingly within reach. And then, in a split second, it's all ripped away. The moment is so sudden, so brutal, that we as the audience are left in stunned silence. In a microcosm, this very scene serves as a stark commentary on the nature of deception. How being a rat, whether for the right side or the wrong side, is ultimately a doomed path. Billy, the righteous infiltrator working for justice, and Colin, the self-serving mole manipulating the system, both walk the same treacherous road. In the end, neither escapes unscathed. The film presents a brutal truth. In a world built on lies and deceit, survival isn't about morality, it's about who gets the last move.
Okay.